Hello, my name is Allie Roberts, and today I will be presenting on creating effective learning inside a classroom. My learning objective for you today is that as a result from participation in this PowerPoint presentation, all teachers, grades kindergarten through 12th, will be able to create meaningful lessons that all involve using research-based strategies. The problem statement. Many problems come from how and what the teachers are being taught, in my opinion. Teachers are continually being taught the wrong things to do or the wrong ideas. It is time that the teachers learn effective, research-based strategies to teach the students in their classroom. For example, from the start of my teaching career, I was told learning styles were important. However, the experts have found that they are not backed by research. When I learned this, I wondered instantly why we were being taught to teach to them. Learning styles are harmful to use, as it does lead the students to believe they can only learn in their preferred style and in that certain way. This made me wonder about other things we are taught that may not be backed by research. If it is not backed by research, we must have a good reason for doing it, right? Well, not really. It has been found that students will often stop trying when the material is not being presented in their preferred learning style. They will think that just because it is being presented a certain way, they will not be able to learn it, and therefore shut down and stop trying. For example, a student who is told that they learn best visually may then not listen to a lecture, thinking that they will not be able to learn the material auditorily because of the way that it is being presented. Now for our content overview. There are many strategies backed by research that teachers should know about and should be using. These include strategies such as reflection, retrieval, dynamic testing, and corrective feedback. Today, I will be sharing with you a little bit about what these are. Retrieval is a very important component to learning. By being able to pull that information from your memories, you are making the memory stronger and easier to recall later if you try to remember it again. In fact, practicing the retrieval method should be difficult. The harder it is to remember, the stronger you are building that bond in order to remember it longer. However, you must make sure you can retrieve the material, so do not wait too long, but usually 24 hours or more for it to really work. Then, to make connections even stronger, students should repeat retrieving that skill, memory, or ability to make it more easily remembered. Testing is a form of retrieval, which is great. However, do not just move on after testing. You should test in order to calculate where the lower abilities are, then teaching to raise those abilities, then test again. Repeat this process so that the students can continue to learn. Giving feedback to students helps strengthen retention more than if you were just to test and move on. Delayed feedback is even better though, so that they cannot solely rely on just using the feedback. This corrective feedback is important so that the students never incorrectly remember something. If they thought one thing that was incorrect and they were never corrected, they could move on remembering wrong information, which you do not want. Reflection and learning is very important. If you do not reflect and think about how you could have done things differently or what went well, you may not remember how to change what you did for next time. Reflection also strengthens that learning bond, connecting your experience and visualizing or mentally walking through the problems, which creates a stronger bond with the memory. The more students use reflection, the more they will end up remembering the material. Now for my suggestions for implementation. Suggestion number 1 is to implement low-stakes quizzes and testing into your teaching routine. I know. Teachers think we already test so much, though testing is good for the students if you are using it effectively. Giving low-stakes quizzes and tests will help to reduce testing anxiety to where they do not have one make-it-or-break-it test all year. Helps to practice retrieval, which helps the students not forget the material, and then you can look at what skills they missed and go back and reteach them to those students. Research has shown that students do better, retain more information, and enjoy more classes that have enforced this practice. In your classroom, this could be as simple as an exit ticket, Kahoot game, end of the week quiz, or lesson test. I think a big part is that students are not always taught the reasoning behind why teachers do what they do. They may not understand frequent quizzes or why they should make flashcards. However, if you teach them that flashcards are a good retrieval tool or that they can quiz themselves to later remember the material better, I think we would set students up for more success. Include your students in these conversations on what you're doing, why, and how it is to help them. Suggestion number 3 is reflection. Reflection is great for students to have ownership in their learning, but also to help them remember what they are learning. They should reflect daily, even if it's only a quick asking them to write one thing down they learned today and one thing they did not understand. That is helpful to the student to remember material and to process it more efficiently. I was thinking about giving a reflection for homework where the students have to write what they learned that day, or maybe set a timer for morning work and have them reflect on the previous day before school starts. Suggestion number 4 is to give students corrective feedback after assignments so that they can take what you have said and use it again later. Make sure to wait at least a little bit before giving them this feedback. I think giving assignments back maybe 24 hours after and giving them time to look through what you had said could make a difference. I let mine correct anything after if they want to, based on the feedback given. A quick summary. Use research-based strategies in your teaching to maximize student learning achievement and retention of material. Help students understand as to why you are using these strategies and why they are important to their learning. Your teaching should include frequent tests of retrieval that are low stakes, having the students reflect on their learning, giving them feedback, and utilizing dynamic testing to see which skill you should focus on in their learning. Using these strategies that are research-based are guaranteed to raise students' achievement levels and increase the retention of the material that they are learning. You should start to implement these effective research-based strategies in your classroom and start to question strategies like teaching to learning styles that are not research-based. You can start doing this in many ways. Some suggestions that I went over included quiz games like Kahoot, which is a free system. You could also help quiz students with flashcards, or better yet, have them create their own and quiz themselves or each other. Another suggestion teachers should do is when a student takes a test, look at what skills they perform low on. Instead of just moving on, take those skills and work with those students on those skill areas. That way, when they retest, their academic achievement will go up. Then the suggestion on feedback. When a student does an assignment or a test, give them corrective feedback, focusing on how they can improve for the future and better remember the correct ways of doing things. This helps the student not remember wrong information. Finally, the last suggestion I gave was on reflection. Teachers are asked to reflect on their learning and teaching, and students should as well. It is an important process in creating memories to be retrieved later and help the students learn how to improve. Try these suggestions and start to research your own and share those with teachers as well. Together, we can create effective learning strategies for our students. Here are my references. Thank you.